So I watched Game 6 with like Heat fans in my apartment. It was bad. They laughed at me as I was starting the last post-game pouting. Bro, and then we were shooting the I Hate Shaun show. We shot like a mini-series, and we started the very next day, the next morning, and we shot the first scene at my house. And so one of my friends showed up at like 8 a.m. with a rose and put it on my desk and said, "I'm sorry for your loss." And like that really like that fuels me every day. That fuels me every single day.
This is Hot Hand Theory. This is a podcast where we talk about the NBA and break things down from an analytical perspective. I'm your co-host, XJ. As always, he is my brilliant co-host, Jeff. And today, Jeff, we have with us a hugely special guest, a true, and I mean this very genuinely, a true legend in the Knicks community. The one, the only, Shaun Geddes. Shaun, how you doing, man? It's so great to have you on. Great to meet you, and it's great to have you on. How you doing?
Great to meet you too, bro. It's great to be on. I'm honored to be here. You guys have had an excellent inaugural season. Great content from two, true knowers of ball. The conversations that need to be had instead of, some of the whatever. But I feel amazing. I feel amazing. 50 wins, the 2 seed. Jalen Brunson deserves MVP. They probably won't give it to him. First team All NBA. So I feel amazing and I feel vindicated because I'd say I can't believe it, but I called it, so I can.
Hey, we are here to give all the appropriate praise to these Knicks, to Jalen Brunson, for you to talk your shit and talk about everything that you've called it, from the beginning of the season and on. Jeff, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to have Shaun on.
And me too.
Yeah, and you too. I said this about one other guest we've had on, and I'm always going to sing the praises of the guests we've had on. But Shaun is particularly special, like John was, because when I was getting started, I basically just followed people who were more prominent in the Knicks Twitter sphere, and I sort of reached out to some of them, asked them how I should get going. And Shaun and John were the two people who were just like, dude, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, just keep putting out good stuff, just keep grinding, always respectful, always encouraging. And so I've told Shaun this in any space I've been with him, and with him I will always support anything he does. And I'm super pumped to have him on our show.
That's dope. You didn't reach out to me because I wasn't on Twitter yet. So, so totally understandable. But no, that's really dope. I'm really excited to have Shaun on, obviously, and especially to kind of recap and encapsulate the Knicks season. What we want to do is just recap, talk about the Knicks season, and then kind of move on to previewing the number 2 seed New York Knicks and their coming playoff run. Just to start things off, obviously, as you all know by now, the Knicks have won 50 games. They're the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. They end up with like the probably 5th or 6th best record. By the time people are listening to this, they'll know for sure. 5th or 6th best record in the NBA. Julius Randle, their all-NBA forward, has played only 56% of the team's games. OG Anunoby, their all-defensive team wing that was acquired mid-season, has played only 28% of the team's games. Mitchell Robinson, as right before we jumped on and started recording, Shaun mentioned, missed 51 games. They're still top 5 in point differential, top 10 in both offense and defense. This is a crazy season. Like, when you really put it in perspective, the season's like unbelievable. Shaun, do you want to get us started by kind of just like talking about your sentiments on the Knicks season, this incredible kind of, I was going to say unexpected, but not for you, obviously. So I don't know if you want to get us started.
It's funny because even though, one thing I love, one of my character flaws probably, I love being right. I really do. Like, I have an affinity for being right. And
don't worry, Shaun. Don't worry, Shaun. XJ does too. So you're in good company.
So yeah, like, even though I called it, it's still surprising just because of like I was like top 3, maybe not 3 at the beginning of the season. I said we could win 50 to 55 games, but I didn't know what would happen over the course of the season. I didn't know that we'd trade RJ and Quick. I didn't know that Julius would miss 3 months. I didn't know that the person we traded RJ and Quick for would miss like 2 months right next to him. I knew that Jalen Brunson would be a top 5 MVP guy, but I didn't think that he would do it I think that he truly has defined like the meaning of value. Like I think he's the epitome of what value is. And to be honest, in my honest opinion, I truly believe and feel like if Jalen Brunson isn't named the MVP, which realistically I prepare myself knowing they probably won't give it to him, they should change the name of the award because it's clearly not about who's the most valuable. Because I don't think Jokic had a great season. SGA had a great season. Who else? Giannis had a great season. Luka had a great season. I don't think any of these guys demonstrated and epitomized value the way that Jalen Brunson did this year. Like to be so valuable to a team where you could be missing your second star and your third guy that you traded for, and you're big. You can miss 3 starters for over half the season and come out with 50 wins. I think that's just spectacular. I think he carried guys on a nightly basis. I think that Leon Rose deserves Executive of the Year. I think, this might be the second season in a row, but definitely this season where he won free agency and won the trade deadline. If you include the OG trade with the trade deadline, I think he put together an excellent team. The heist that he committed. I mean, he also should go to jail for getting Deuce on 3 years, $13 million. But like it adds to his resume. Like that is criminal. But like, it adds to the resume. He just did a really great job. And Dante DiVincenzo was third in the NBA in shooting this year, averaged 21 points a game after losing Julius Randle. And we got him for 4 years, $50 million, and people called it an overpay. It's just a lot of the things that happened this year were just very special and unforeseen. This season itself feels like 3 different seasons. Like the team with RJ and IQ feels like one season. Then that January where we have OG and Randle, we're punching teams every night, feels like another season. And then the season of having to recover from losing those guys and kind of just make it out. Some of those nights, especially nights where if Jalen missed a game or if iHeart missed a game, it's like, yo, Josh Hart is going out there and giving us everything he has and getting a 23-point triple-double. And Dante DiVincenzo has 7 threes, and somehow he pulled this game out. This has been an incredible season. I couldn't have even though I called it, there's no way I could have written the story of how we got here. And so it's just really beautiful. I think that a lot of people deserve a lot of credit. I've had things to say about Tom Thibodeau in the past. All of those things are pretty much washed out right now. He had an excellent season this year, and I think that he deserves Coach of the Year. I understand that, Mark Daigneault or whatever, however you say it, in OKC has a very strong case. But, I feel like SGA, Chet, and Jalen Williams, and I'm saying this is somebody who didn't check and didn't watch 82 games of Thunder basketball, so bear with me. But I feel like all of them played 70-plus games. I don't feel like the Thunder were ever, missing guys for an extended period of time. So, that doesn't take away from the job that Mark did, but, it adds to what Tibbs did. It adds to, the story of his season. So I think the Knicks are in order for a lot of awards. But one thing I feel like I can't budge on, Leon Rose, Executive of the Year, he has to have it. I feel like there's no other candidate. And Jalen Brunson, if they don't give him MVP, we will accept nothing less than All-NBA first team. Literally, we will accept nothing less. But this is an excellent season.
It would at this point be a travesty if he didn't make first team All-NBA. And I say that as someone who mistakenly was the co-host of a podcast that didn't put him on their first team All-NBA awards a week ago. But the gap between him and the person we thought was the 5th player on first team All-NBA, Kawhi Leonard, isn't close anymore because Kawhi sat out the last week and Jalen Brunson averaged 47 and 6 on whatever he did. This is why you have I Hate Shaun on your podcast, because Jalen Brunson has a season like this. The first thing XJ and I would think is clone theory. We'd come up with some nerdy thing about why, what does this say about team building? Sometimes you just want to sit back and enjoy someone hype the team up and talk about why the season was so magical, and I share most of Shaun's sentiments about just the magic of the season. We'll talk about it a bit later. I think that Tibbs has come a long way since his first season. I shouldn't have to, emphasize this every time I say something negative. I don't think he should be fired. Obviously, he just won 50 games. I'm not all the way there though with the all of his sins are in the past. I do still have some concerns headed into the playoffs. Again, we'll talk about those in a bit. This is all positive. Everything is good. This was just an amazing, amazing season. And I'm just not someone who I'm a nostalgic person, but I'm not an overly emotional person. And to Shaun's credit, this season it took so much out of the fan base because there were so many different iterations of the team. It was almost like you couldn't sit still. It was they get off to the slow start, but they had that unbearable schedule, and you knew that it was going to turn around a little bit, but then they make that trade and it turns around in a way that you could have never imagined. And then the end of January, both Randall and OG go down, and it's like, well, shit, now it's a new chapter, and then OG comes back, and it feels like they're really in a good place right now where they can make some noise in the playoffs. I'm going to turn it back to you, Shaun, before XJ chimes in. I see a lot of people who are kind of hedging already. And both emotionally, but also they seem pretty convinced that like everything's gravy from here on out. Me and XJ are not on that train. We are very much going into these playoffs with high expectations. What are your expectations for the team in the playoffs? Because to me, I wouldn't accept or hear excuses, if they don't win at least a playoff series. But honestly, since they're fading Boston until the Eastern Conference Finals and they have home court until the Eastern Conference Finals, I expect them to win too.
Yeah, I expect to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, and it's not hedging. I think that's a testament to this team. Like, that you can lose a 3-time All-Star and a 2-time All-NBA who probably would have been a 3-time All-NBA if he played the season. That you can lose that guy and still be like, yeah, we're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. We've been saying for the past few weeks, whether it's playback shot, playback gang, or on post-game prosperity and Knicks on one, where it's just like, I remember when Porzingis went down and like life was over. Like, it was just like, oh man, like we lost our power forward. We have nothing. Like there's nothing, like, and so to be at a point where you can lose that guy and still be like, yeah, we're going to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think is a testament to where this team is at. And so with Julius, I look forward to how he'll fit in next year when he gets back and how we'll be. But yeah, like once they announced that he wasn't coming back, like there's no more, oh, we did it without Julius. No, Julius is no longer a part of this iteration of this team on the court. Like, so the expectations that we have now, I expect to win the first round series. I expect to now we get Milwaukee in the second round. It's food to me. If they even beat Indiana, who I wanted Indiana so bad. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people I saw like were trying like, oh, don't win this game, blah blah blah, because we would have been in third and avoided Miami and the Philly. I'm not afraid of anybody. I wanted the 50 wins. I wanted the 2 seed. But, like, I wanted Indiana from months ago. All the Tyrese Halliburton talk was getting on my nerves. I need a Jalen Brunson versus Tyrese Halliburton series where I think that it doesn't go any more than 5. And so I was a little sad. That's the only thing I'm a little bit sad about missing the Indiana series. But if the way that God works it out brings Indiana to my doorstep for round 2, that is going to be so poetic. And I need that. I would love that. So, my expectations are right there with you, Jeff. I expect to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I love the showing we put out in Boston the other night because I know that regardless of what anybody tries to say, they played their starters for a reason, and they played them again in the second half for a reason, and they were trying to make a statement, and they got punched in the mouth on national television at home. So I can't wait to punch them in the mouth in the Eastern Conference Finals.
100%. We're all on the same page as far as expectations. And honestly, Shaun, I would not be shocked if, the Knicks did see Indiana in the second round with who knows what's going on with Giannis with his injury. And, Indiana just did what they just did against a really awful Atlanta Hawks defense. But nonetheless, they put up, I think it was like 150 points or whatever it was in regulation. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Knicks saw Indiana in the second round. I think that'd be amazing. And I think either way, whoever they play, I think they have an opportunity to really make a run to the Eastern Conference Finals. And it's kind of what I'm expecting as well. The one thing I want to say, just to like kind of tie it all together, to tie bow onto what both of you were talking about. So Shaun's point about the different iterations of the team and Brunson's kind of MVP argument, thinking about a few things. So I'm just looking at some of the data for the Knicks top 3 most used lineups over 150 possessions, or the best 3 lineups over 150 possessions. Lineup number 1 is Brunson, McBride, DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and Isaiah Hartenstein. Obviously, we know what part of the season that was, remembering that lineup. The Knicks were plus 33.1 per 100 possessions, over 330 possessions with that lineup. Number 2, Brunson, Emmanuel Quickley, Josh Hart, Julius Randle, and Isaiah Hartenstein. 193 possessions, plus 30.6 per 100 possessions net differential. Crazy lineup. Obviously, that's when they had Quick and the Brunson Quickley synergy. They were balling together and making that all work. And then number 3, Brunson, DiVincenzo, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, Isaiah Hartenstein, 374 possessions, plus 17 per 100. Those are 3 different iterations of the lineup. The consistent presence that you see in that lineup is one, Isaiah Hartenstein, but also obviously Jalen Brunson. And the fact that you have Jalen Brunson and you could kind of mix and match the rest of the guys that you have there. You could have another small guard and Emmanuel Quickly, another small guard and Deuce McBride. You could play small with Josh Hart as your small ball 4. You can play, bigger with Julius Randle and OG Anunoby on the court at the same time. It really doesn't matter because as long as you have Jalen Brunson, you're going to be putting up numbers. And that's what we've seen this year. And to your point, Shaun, that's kind of like, that's what represents what most valuable is. So I think it's a compelling argument for sure.
Can I also just say, actually, this, I'm sure some Knicks fans will be annoyed about this, but whatever. I have to say my piece about my guy. Did you guys know that despite the slow start and despite that super hot January and honestly just the end, aside from that middle cold stretch in the season, do you guys know who ended the season of all the Knicks rotation players with the 3rd highest net swing on the team?
I have a good idea of who it is.
It's Emmanuel. It's Emmanuel Quickly. Of course it is, because he is just. Oh man, I miss that guy. But we got the number 1 on the team. We got OG Anunoby, who is I'm gonna springboard off of XJ's point. The OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, Isaiah Hartenstein trio is just absurd. They, in all their minutes together, they beat opponents by 26 points per 100 possessions when the 3 of them shared the court. They were just consistent greatness. They went 20-3 when OG Anunoby was in the lineup. Like, this is a team. Honestly, I'm convinced, and I'm going to get a little irrational here. I'm convinced that if you just put a different jersey on them, people would be talking about this team like they're true title contenders. Because there's no evidence that they're not true title contenders, in my opinion. Shaun, you agree, guys?
I agree. I mean, and I think that at this point, I'm not worried about what anyone has to say. I was saying back in November, around the time everybody was singing Tyrese Halliburton's praises like he was the greatest player to ever touch a basketball court, and Indiana Pacers were so well set up as a franchise because of that, and that they had a superstar, and we didn't even have a star, and we needed a guy. Even Carmelo Anthony went out there and said, oh, they need a white hat. Julius Randle needs help. I've never been so disappointed in Melo. So-called 7 p.m. in Brooklyn, and you still don't know what time it is. I couldn't believe it. But back in November, I said, I don't care for November respect. You're going to have to respect it in April. You're going to have to respect it in May. And you're going to have to respect it in June. And at this point, do we really have to argue about being a title contender? We're the 2nd seed. The Celtics have had number 1 locked up for like 2 weeks. So it's like out east, who else is a contender if not us? Even without Julius Randle, the basketball we've been playing the past few months, everybody at this point is respecting Jalen Brunson. I haven't heard anybody say he wasn't a superstar in months, let alone a star. So it's just like, I agree, and I think everyone else does too. Now, I think they just don't want to talk about it. It's not fun to talk about. It's not cool to talk about. But as I said, as I realized last year, I'm new to being in the playoffs and winning playoff series and stuff like that. I don't have a lot of experience with it in my lifetime. But I realized, I was like, oh, every round, there's less and less teams to talk about. So they're going to have to talk about it in the first round because half the NBA is not playing anymore. Then next round, in the second round, there's only going to be 8 teams left. You're going to have to talk about it. You get to the conference finals, you have to talk. You can't. There's 4 teams left. There's nothing else to talk about. You're going to have to talk about it. They might try to, the Lakers have, gone home already. They'll probably try to be like, hey, what's LeBron going to do this offseason? But after that 5-minute bit, the producers got to fill the show up and they got to talk about it.
They will definitely talk about LeBron. Like that's
why it's hilarious because they will talk about
regardless. Like, Knicks Pacers second round. Would LeBron fit on any of these teams? What's he gonna do this summer? But yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't care about what outsiders think, and the homer in me I just think that Leon and Tibbs and the players, I just think they deserve their due, and I wish more people. I hate the stigma of it's like the same old Knicks, and you see. I just feel like if they were talked about more positively, I don't know, it would help their perception, and it wouldn't seem like they're still this joke. I know I'm not supposed to care about that, but I guess I do kind of.
I understand why you would care about it, and I totally understand it. I don't think the Knicks, though. I want to say I think the kind of story, the narrative is changing a bit. And I think a lot of that is coming from Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson essentially forcing respect from everybody who watches basketball and everybody who covers the game. at some point, with the way that Jalen Brunson has played so consistently under all of these different circumstances that we described, at some point, if you cover or watch the game and you're being genuine to your job, you have no choice but to give Jalen Brunson his respect. And I think he's getting it now. I think you're seeing some of the same people who have been like, he's a 1B or whatever, whatever stuff people are saying. Those same people are coming back and being like, yeah, this guy is, he's him. Like, for real. There's nothing really he has no blemishes at this point. And he's even done it in the playoffs already. So you can't even come with that kind of perspective either. He's done it in the playoffs completely undermanned and under the gun. So I just think that Brunson is getting his respect. I don't think the Knicks are getting their respect. And I think that that's what this playoff kind of platform is going to be able to do for them. The playoff platform, I think, is where they're going to have the opportunity for Isaiah Hartenstein to shine and say, whoa, this guy is a ridiculously impactful defender. OG Anunoby to shine and say, whoa, this guy is the perfect glue piece on any potential championship contender. Dante DiVincenzo to shine and say, whoa, this guy is like one of the best spacers in the entire NBA and actually way more athletic than we think in with regard to him being able to kind of get to the rim, get rebounds. Josh Hart, a very similar thing. So I think we are going to see the Knicks get a much bigger platform. As Shaun said, as the teams get fewer and fewer, you kind of are left with no choice. Jalen Brunson left kind of the NBA media with no choice, but I think the Knicks are going to leave the NBA media with no choice pretty shortly here.
I think that's you just landed upon what my biggest issue is. Everybody wants it to be like this. I call it like superhero syndrome. Like the conversation is going to shift from the Knicks are a joke to the Knicks are being carried by Jalen Brunson with his MVP performance. And especially with Julius Randle out. And to me, I just feel like this team is so well built. And maybe I'm holding the rest of media to a higher standard, or maybe I'm biased because we here at this show, we coined clone theory. We're all about synergy. We're all about that sort of team build sort of thing. But I do feel like there should be an appreciation, at least from Knicks fans, for just how perfectly put together this team is, even without Julius Randle, how every single player on the court, when they play next to Jalen Brunson, they're allowed to be 100% of themselves at all times. And that's rare to say across the league. I think, actually, and I've talked about this, it's really only Boston and Denver. Those are the only two other teams who kind of have 5 guys in their lineup at all times who, when they're on the court, they're the best versions of themselves. And yeah, you're missing a big talent in Julius Randle, and they're a worse team without Julius Randle for sure. Jalen Brunson's shouldering a much bigger usage, a much bigger burden without Julius Randle. That's going to be hard on him. But the thing that I feel like is being missed is that replacing Julius Randle are players who are sliding into more optimized roles for themselves, including Jalen Brunson. And when Julius Randle comes back next season, and Jalen Brunson isn't doing what he's done this back half of the season, like I feel like everybody's going to be like, oh, Julius Randle's going to come back, and yeah, we're putting an MVP with and all. It just doesn't work like that. And I think that that's something we should be learning, is that the Knicks' depth was always their biggest strength, and now they're filled to the brim with guys who are being maximized. And I wish there would just be some appreciation for that, because that's Leon Rose's vision.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, he really deserves Executive of the Year. And it's crazy because part of the reason, and I feel like I wish that everyone was a part of Knicks Twitter. I wish that Knicks Twitter had more of a because the funniest thing about it is Leon Rose is about to win Executive of the Year for moves that he was killed for. He was killed on Twitter for all of this. We came into the season, everybody's saying, oh, we don't have a backup power forward. What are we doing? We don't have a backup power forward. And this is while Julius Randle had never missed games at all, really. He played 77 games every year at minimum. And it was like, oh, what
Shaun, do you remember the Isaiah Roby backup power forward minutes from preseason?
Oh, my goodness. Oh.
When people were like, oh, we need someone like this.
Oh, my goodness. And I was just like, and my whole thing, but, and I realized, right? And I've realized this over the course of the season. I realized this the off season. A lot of people enjoy talking more than they enjoy basketball, and they disguise it as an enjoyment for talking basketball. Because the entire time, just who are these backup power forwards in the NBA that you guys are so afraid of that are going to, like, you know, put their back to the basket and just put Josh Hart. We only ran into that problem against Milwaukee because of Bobby Portis. They almost always have like two bigs on the floor. That's an anomaly in the NBA today. And so it's like, that's really not going to be an issue. And we saw Josh Hart be able to be the starting power forward for an extended period of time. And it's just really nice. I think one of my favorite things this season is just, okay, like I remember when that was loud, and I love that I don't hear it anymore. And a big part of that is because I mute people to say stupid things. But, you know, people have to move on from things. They got to move on from the power forward thing. They signed Dante DiVincenzo, and we had this whole nepotism. Oh, Villanova, all they care about is bringing Jalen Brunson's friends in. And my whole thing was, listen, I'm not going to say that I knew Dante DiVincenzo was going to be top 3 in 3-pointers in the season or anything like that, but I was just like, after what I just saw Jalen Brunson do in the playoffs, if the game plan for the franchise is, hey, bring all his friends in, go ahead. Do whatever that guy wants. He's earned that from me. Like, I'm not mad at it. And so it's just like, you know, he made really great moves that put us in position, that insulated us for injury more than I even realized. The Bogey trade looked a little rocky at first because he was out there playing like he didn't know what was going on. I want to talk to Bojan Bogdanovic myself personally, because something about whatever happened like 2 weeks ago, as soon as they announced Julius wasn't coming back, Bogey had like a pep to his step. It wasn't just the shot started going in. He looked faster. Everything looked different. I was like, all of a sudden he's doing dribble handoffs at the top of the key and beating people off the dribble. I was like, you were not doing this last week.
that up and under finish that he hit him with. Like, where did that come from?
My guy Kyle Burnley, shout out Kyle Burnley, in playback, he was like, you know, he might be Croatian, but that English was amazing. Yeah, Sean, man. Leon Rose did an excellent job.
We were in your space together last trade deadline. And like, honestly, like you could go back and clip me and you were on like an island. We were like, all right, guys, settle down. Like, this isn't a terrible like, what are we talking about here? It's a protected first round pick. We were getting killed for that. And like, I don't think either one of us expected to be Josh Hart as good as he was at the back half of last season. He's kind of stumbled up and down, but you know, your point is a very valid one. People they love talking and they love having their intuitions be reinforced. I love that you brought up Josh Hart playing power forward, because before we get to the direct matchups, I just have to say, I referenced it earlier. I do have Tom Thibodeau related fears as we head into the playoffs. And I hope to God that, you know, I'm wrong, and I'm rooting for myself to be wrong. But I think if we have learned one thing, it's that there aren't really size issues with this team. If you have Isaiah Hartenstein or Mitchell Robinson playing center, it doesn't really matter who the other 4 guys are. Their team is likely going to be big enough. If one of Josh Hart or OG Anunoby is on the court, you're probably going to be big enough. I'm not asking for them to go Brunson, Deuce, DiVincenzo, Bojan, and iHart, like maybe some other coaches would go. If you have one of the centers and one of OG Anunoby or Josh Hart on the court, you have plenty of size. And everybody, you know, all 3 of us and people listening, we all watched this Bulls game today. And I think it was a precursor of what we're going to see against smart coaches who scheme against the Knicks. Because if you go back and rewatch that fourth quarter, Jalen Brunson was not allowed to see only one defender. And the guy they were helping off of was Josh Hart every single time. Every single time it was Josh Hart who was left to roam and left to float after they used him as a screener. They tried switching some things up. Jalen Brunson had this one play, I want to clip it later, where he beat the double
team off the dribble.
He beat the double, but then he did this little like 180 hezzy, like he was going to kick it back out to the top of the key to Josh Hart, and it froze both trailing defenders, and he knew it would, and it got him a floater. That's the type of skill we're talking about with Jalen Brunson. That play was immaculate, but that shit is hard, man. Like you guys all play basketball. Shaun, seeing the videos, you're a fucking excellent basketball player. You know better than anyone how hard it is just to create a bucket. And you're playing, like, no offense, you're playing pickup. Like, you're not playing NBA where you're getting hounded by Alex Caruso and a second defender 48 minutes a night. Jalen Brunson's going to get his, but he's going to have to work his ass off. There are going to be games, in my opinion, where Josh Hart is being exploited and he's not answering the call like he needs to. And my number one concern is that Tom Thibodeau is going to see Josh Hart for what he brings and not what he's taking away, because the lineup of Jalen Brunson, Deuce McBride, Dante DiVincenzo, OG Anunoby, and Isaiah Hartenstein is elite. It is elite in everything, and you cannot exploit Deuce McBride the way you can exploit Josh Hart. I know Deuce McBride is not the rebounder that Josh Hart is, but everywhere else, Deuce McBride is helping you more than Josh Hart is against those types of defenses. And my number one concern is that there won't be a pivot, or at least a fast enough pivot. Do you guys think that's just way off? Like I'm disrespecting Tibbs by saying that, or do you think that that's a valid concern as we head into the playoffs?
Shaun, what do you think?
So I've got mixed emotions there, right? Because I think that you're right, but like for different reasons. So I think the Tibbs is going to die with Josh Hart. I think he's prepared to live and die with Josh Hart. But like at the same time, I don't even really blame him. Like I have Josh Hart pisses me off sometimes, but like he's just special at what he does. Even he said on the roommate show, they were like, oh, you don't practice. Our Hart was like, you're the worst practice player I've ever played with. And he was like, yo, if I get suspended for 5 games, I miss 5 game checks. I'm not paid to practice. It was like, they were like, what are you paid for? He was like, I'm paid to go out there and F shit up. And honestly, that's kind of what he does. Now, the Josh Hart that we need the Josh Hart from the Sacramento game. The Josh Hart against Miami, in Miami a couple weeks ago, played 45 minutes and took 3 shots. And he was the guy they were leaving every time. That's not okay. If you're out there for 45 minutes and you only take 3 shots, especially when you're the safety valve, you're hurting us. But Josh Hart in the Kings game, it's like, I don't know if you watched post-game pouting where I said it, or like I've noticed that the dynamic between him and Jalen is basically like a frustrated coach that hangs out with him, because he's always telling him like, yo, like you need to do this, you need to do that. Like, and so I'm sure Jalen was like, bro, we need you to shoot the ball. He came out in the Sacramento game, and every time he touched the ball, he looked at the basket. He was going right to the basket. He had a bad wrist. I think that's part of why he didn't shoot in Miami. But he was like 13 for 17 from the field with 0 3-point attempts. He was getting to the rack. If Josh Hart is that aggressive with us playing off of him, then like I have full trust in him. But at the same time, I think that I have more trust in Tibbs to pivot this year than I did last year. Because I remember when we first made the trades, one of my big things was like, I don't want Deuce buried. If Deuce outplays Alec Burks, I need minutes to be merit-based. I need him to be over Alec in the rotation. And I watched him earn that. Like I watched game by game, I watched him earn that. I watched him give that to Deuce when he earned it. And I think that he's made a lot of rotational decisions this year. I can't think about too much in this rotation right now that I would do differently. And I think that's a testament to how Tibbs has done this year and the fact that he's made adjustments. But you're not wrong to be afraid, because he trusts Josh a lot. He likes having him on the floor, and I think he's going to have him out there. But I do think that Deuce has earned, I think that Deuce will get what he deserves.
So just to sort of add to your point as well, the game I would point to for Josh Hart, even more than the Sacramento game, and he was incredible in the Sacramento game, I would point to the second Philly game. We played Philly back-to-back at home, 2 straight games. The first game, we just got dismantled by Philly. That was the last time we saw Precious Achiuwa at starting power forward. Please, Lord, for my sanity, let us never see Precious Achiuwa at power forward ever again. But again, that's another fear of mine that I'm waiting. I'm hoping that Tibbs is like, no, we're not going to see that. He did it tonight. He played Precious at power forward in the first half, didn't work, and then he pivoted in the second half. So credit to Tom Thibodeau. He saw it not work, and then he went to Deuce longer in the second half. That's the type of shit you want to see. That's encouraging. But anyways, that second Philly game, Josh Hart was 8 of 16 from the floor, 1 of 6 from 3. There are going to be people who listen to this and they're like, 1 of 6 from 3 isn't good. No, 1 of 6 from 3 is not good. But the fact that he's a threat to shoot from 3, the fact that he's shooting off the catch whenever he's left open, defenses are going to react to that. They're going to adjust to it. They're not just going to let a wing shoot an open 3 repeatedly over and over again. The human beings just don't act like that. I'm sorry. Even under the most strict directive, eventually they close out. And what you saw in that game is Josh Hart able to get to spots inside the basket that kept the advantages that Jalen Brunson was creating. As long as he's doing that, I don't care. Like, he can be out there for 48 minutes tonight as long as, because he is a good player. That is the point. I don't want anybody to think I don't think he's a good player. He is a good player. But we've seen the hesitant version of Josh Hart, the one who says, I missed 2 threes in a row. I'm going to jab step a million times, and the advantage that was just created is gone. We've seen it before. And my only hope is that if that Josh Hart comes out for a game, There's a quick realization of it. Shaun, you say it a million times on your show. Just react to what's happening in front of you. Just react to what's happening in front of you. And Josh Hart doesn't need to make threes. He just needs to be a threat to shoot them so that the defense has to adjust to it. If the defense doesn't have to adjust to it, in my opinion, the Knicks are in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, I think that's all well said. I agree with both of you fully. Really the common denominator for all of it is Josh Hart. Whatever you're going to do, be decisive about it. Any indecision is losing the advantage that the Knicks are gaining with Jalen Brunson on the court. And you don't want to lose the advantage. You want to keep it going. He just has to be decisive with his actions. And it's great that you brought up the Philly game, Jeff, because we are about to talk about Philly. The Knicks, with them being the 2 seed, are going to be matched up against either the Philadelphia 76ers or the Miami Heat. I know who I'd rather play of those two, but I think the Knicks have a really good chance against either of those teams. I want to talk about Philly first because I do think that Philly's dangerous, and I hope that you both kind of can convince me out of this position a little bit. But I think the Knicks should be favorited in that series, even with a fully healthy Embiid. But there's no doubt that when Embiid is on the court, the Sixers are a very dangerous team. They're +9 per 100 when Embiid is on the court, elite on both ends of the court. When Maxey and Embiid are on there together, they're even a little better, +11 per 100. Embiid was the MVP before he got injured, in my opinion. But, his health is still a big question mark. The other question mark kind of that I have in my head about Embiid is he went out before the referees kind of seemingly stopped giving such a friendly whistle. I forget what kind of date that was or what the cutoff point was when the free throw attempts started kind of going down. But he was averaging 17 free throw attempts per 100, which would have easily been number 1 in the NBA. If they play Philly, I just think the Knicks are going to need Mitchell Robinson. I think he'd be an X factor. And I feel like we know Isaiah Hartenstein is not going to play more than 30 minutes per game against against just in general. And then especially against Philly, against Embiid, he's almost guaranteed to deal with some level of foul trouble almost every game. So I'm just worried about Mitch's recovery. I think it's too early in the playoffs for Mitch to really be essential here. And I would have liked to see us kind of have Mitch get a series off almost. And in my opinion, Miami would almost be a series off for him because I think Precious would be fine as the backup 5 against Miami. But against Philly, I feel like you need your bigs. You need your bigs to have a solid 6 fouls, and you need them to be able to battle with Embiid all night. So those are my concerns. Obviously, keeping Maxey in front is going to be another issue, but those are my concerns about the Philly matchup. Again, I think the Knicks should be favored, and I definitely think the Knicks will win, but I think that's more of a 6-game, potentially 7-game series if Embiid is healthy and going forward. So what do you guys think about that?
Actually, I'm going to turn it over to Shaun and let him answer the question before I do, but I just need to point out, we got a brand to protect here, and you cannot be dancing with the devil saying shit about Miami like that. All right. We learned our lesson last season. I agree with you that they would be huge favorites over Miami, but whatever the hell deal that Pat Riley has with the devil is terrifying to me. And you just glibly dance around it, oh yeah, we don't even need Mitch. Yeah, just Precious Chua. That's enough. That's enough. We would, no problem.
Listen, Precious is getting his revenge in that series. We'll see how much dancing with the devil I'm gonna do when we talk about Miami. But we'll finish out with Philly first.
Personally, I got us in 5 against Philly. I think it's really, really, really I mean, I haven't been intimidated by any partisan that I've seen. When Embiid was healthy, we punched him by 36. Of course, we had Julius, but I think that between having Arhart and I think a week of no games and just conditioning will do wonders for Mitch. I think that'll be huge for him. And I think if we can get 48 minutes of Hartenstein and Mitch, and then Precious for foul insurance, don't put Jericho on the court. Precious for foul insurance. I think that we'll be in really good shape. And I also, I like less than 5% of me believes Embiid is really healthy. He's not healthy. He's not healthy. Even if Embiid was healthy, I'd have us pretty easily here. I don't believe Embiid is healthy. I feel like he's gone to – I haven't even watched a Sixers game since he's been back, and I've seen him on the ground holding his knee 3 times. He's not healthy. He's not all right yet. That's a tough injury to come back from the way he came back from. He's a big guy. He's already injury prone. And I think that Tibbs does a great job scheming against centers. Teams that run their offense primarily through a center, we beat Denver by 38 and Philly by 36 in the same week. And both of them were healthy. And in the Denver game, we had Jericho and Precious at center. Both Mitch and Arhart were out. So I think that we do a great job scheming against centers. I think that's one of Tibbs' strong suits. And I think that, I think there's nothing they can do about Jalen Brunson. I don't think they demonstrated the ability to. A lot of my confidence against most of these teams is like, you can't do anything about Jalen Brunson. As Jeff always points out, he's going to create these advantages all the time. Everybody else's job. Chief Ike said this on Knicks on One the other day, and he was just like, at this point, we've reached the point where everyone else's job is just don't sell him out. Just don't sell him, bro. Jalen Brunson is going to just don't sell him. If you do your job, like, in Game 6 against Miami, everybody sold him, save maybe Josh Hart. And Josh Hart sold him too because he couldn't trust him enough to kick the ball out to him because he didn't think he'd shoot it and get on that last possession. So it's like, if everyone does their jobs with the advantage he's going to create, then I think we've got it.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Shaun. And you brought up stopping Jalen Brunson. You brought up don't sell Jalen Brunson. You brought up the fact that the Sixers don't really have any Jalen Brunson stoppers. One name that I don't think you'll hear on any or many other, NBA pods previewing this, especially Knicks pods, DeAnthony Melton matters to them. And he's someone, he wouldn't be able to stop Jalen Brunson. I don't think anybody can stop Jalen Brunson, but he's a good 3-point shooter. And he's a good defender. He's another body that they could, with Kyle Lowry, they could just throw on him. They'll probably try Kelly Oubre on him. I just feel like the Sixers, they're lacking depth. I don't trust their depth at all. I'm not going to claim to know 100% that Embiid is injured. He's not injured, but I agree with Shaun that it hasn't looked perfect since he's been back. I need to spend a minute talking about what XJ brought up, the free throws, because look, if you're a Knicks fan and you watch 82 Knicks games a season and you watch Jalen Brunson get battered and bruised, and you watch, like everyone knows I don't really care about the free throw stuff. I stay out of that. I don't want to be a part of that. But the absolute juxtaposition between how Jalen Brunson is refereed and how Joel Embiid is refereed, combined with the fact that Nick Nurse coaches his guys to play murder ball. Literally, that's what Nick Nurse teams do. Nick Nurse teams exaggerate all contact on the offensive end and beat the shit out of you on the defensive end, because they basically say the refs are only going to call so many fouls, and they take that to the extreme. All I want to say is to Knicks fans, get ready to be frustrated if Philly is the team we play, because you are going to see this team, the Knicks, get their shit knocked in by the defense, in the sense of the Philly defense is going to create contact over and over again. And then Embiid is going to get sent to the free throw line for the softest shit you've ever seen. That's not the best analysis about whether the Knicks are going to win or not, but I need to prepare people who are listening emotionally, because it is going to frustrate the shit out of all of us.
Yeah, you guys are making me feel better about the Philly situation besides the fouling thing, which is my biggest concern. And we'll see how they call it in the playoffs. But I think everything that you both have said is right, and at least making me feel a little better about it, especially with Embiid probably not being fully healthy. I think that's a great point that you made, Jeff, about D'Anthony Melton. I can't even say his name. Hopefully I won't have to say his name. He's still coming back off of a back injury, so he's played a little bit here and there, like a few minutes, but he's not going to be ready to gear up to guard Jalen Brunson for 36 minutes a night. Like, there's just no chance of that.
If you go back and watch the start of the season, actually, that's what I was alluding to.
Yeah,
you go back. He was a key. Even with him getting off to a slow shooting start, he was in their starting lineup. The 5-man unit of Maxey, Melton, Harris, Embiid,
Batum.
And
Batum.
And Batum. And Batum. There it is. Yeah, Batum somehow in it. The 5-man unit of Maxey, Melton, Batum, Harris, and Embiid beat teams by 34 points per 100 possessions. They were dismantling teams.
And it's a lot of possessions. It's a large sample too of possessions. It's not like a small sample.
It's a large sample. And look, this goes along with what XJ and I have been saying all season about the value of synergy. You have 2 interactive superstars in Maxey and Embiid who play off each other well, and then 3 guys who fill their roles. They can shoot, they can defend, they can move off the ball. That is pretty much the ideal team build. And Melton was a key cog in that. He's not going to be able to just come back and, be the I don't think he will be. I shouldn't guarantee it, but he's an important part of their team. I like the Kyle Lowry pickup. I know Kyle Lowry is the most popular player on Twitter, But I've always had a soft spot for Kyle Lowry. I think he's hugely underrated historically. If I told people where he ranked in EPM in his prime relative to the league, it would blow people away. This was a guy who was producing top 10 impact multiple times throughout his career, but he's 36 years old. He's been in the league since 2007. I think he's going to try hard.
He's 38, by the way.
Man, that's crazy. No, that's crazy. So he's 38 years old. I don't know. I just don't think Philly has enough to really, really push the Knicks. But at the same time, Embiid was legitimately the MVP of the league before he went out. I think it would be silly to be overly dismissive of them the way I expect XJ to be of Miami in a bit. Any final thoughts on Philly, Shaun?
Yeah. We'll get your final thoughts, Shaun.
Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely agree with you guys about the foul thing. Especially with Embiid, it is crazy to watch like the 6-foot guy, if that, go down and get clobbered and get no call on, and see like on the very next possession the 7-footer, 285 pounds, come through and flop and throw his arms out and go to the line. It's really disgusting.
Crazy.
So I have prepared myself for that mentally. That's why I was saying I know we're gonna have iHeart and Mitch, and we're probably gonna need some extra minutes at the 5 because there's probably gonna be some foul trouble involved, unfortunately. But I'm fully confident against Philly. I still got us in 5. Also, that's all home games. That's our arena. That's like our auxiliary gym. So it's just like those are all gonna be home games. We run them out of their building every time, fan wise.
Yeah, and another team who I think that I'm very confident against personally is the Miami Heat. I don't know, I may get pushback from both of you on this. Miami is just not a dangerous team to me at all. They're like a brand name that like used to be good like back in the day. Like they're like a meme stock to me. They're GameStop. They're AMC to me. Like they're just not good. They're 21st in offense in the NBA. They're 6th in defense, but they're 15th in the NBA in effective field goal percentage against. So they give up a lot of good shots to good offenses, and they're largely a top 10 defense only because they're good at defensive rebounding. And I just don't think they're going to consistently keep the Knicks off the offensive glass. If that's your recipe to success, it's like probably not going to be the best. If that's the only thing you're good at defensively or the primary thing you're good at defensively. Duncan Robinson's kind of like emergence as a ball handler has been really cool, like a cool revelation for them. And Bam has, I mentioned this to you, Jeff, Bam's been shooting a bunch of threes recently. And when I say a bunch, like 2 per game or something like that. But, speaking of a team who doesn't have enough, they don't have enough to be really threatening to me. For example, they take a ton of mid-range shots, mostly from Bam, who is pretty inefficient at them. They don't get to the rim. They're second to last in the NBA in terms of percentage of their shots that come at the rim. They don't protect the rim particularly well. They're second in the NBA in terms of percentage of their opponent's shots that come at the rim. You can get pretty high quality looks off of them, and they really struggle to consistently generate high quality looks themselves. This is not a formula for success. It's like you give up high quality looks and you don't get high quality looks. Like I'm just not gonna be afraid of any team that's like that. And personally, I'm not just like a Heat mythology believer or any of that stuff. Obviously, they did what they did last year. They've done what they've done in several years in the past, but the past is the past. This is now. Like, you just can't have a makeup like this as a team and still expect to do damage, especially against, again, a legitimate Knicks 2-seed team that is a solid 50-win team. And when their pieces are all healthy together, are a better team than that. Like, I don't expect you to really do damage against a team like that when you have that kind of construct. So what do you guys think about that?
Personally, I agree with you. I'm like in the middle of the two of you guys because I agree with you, but I'm not saying much about Miami this year. Like, I'll just let the play on the court do the talking, because last year I said Knicks in 5, if that, and we lost game 1 and then lost the series. I live in South Florida. So I watched game 6 with like Heat fans in my apartment. It was bad. They laughed at me as I was starting the last post-game pouting. Bro, and then we were shooting the I Hate Shaun show. We shot like a mini-series, and we started the very next day, the next morning. And we shot the first scene at my house. And so one of my friends showed up at like 8 in the morning with a rose and put it on my desk and said, "I'm sorry for your loss." And like that really that fuels me every day. That fuels me every single day.
That's really good.
I need it. It was good. I couldn't lie. I couldn't even be mad. So I need it. But because of what happened and because of how that played out, I'm not even going to say anything. One of my friends already hit the group chat, and he was like, oh, no matter what, we play our Suns, no matter who we play, so it works out for us. I just love the message, and I just screenshotted it. I'm just going to come back to it. But I'm not doing any talking about the Miami Heat. But as far as the on-court product, you're completely right. I don't think they're that good. Even the win they got us against us last week, they have a very good scheme against Jalen Brunson. I'm not going to lie. Like, they had Haywood Highsmith. They had Lane Dunham. They trapped them well. You know, they're very disciplined defensively. I think that Eric Spoelstra probably is the only coach that I think can outcoach Thibodeau in the Eastern Conference right now. I'm not really worried about any other coaches. That's kind of where I'm at with Thibodeau. It's impressive. I believe in him. But at the end of the day, everything he's done well, I still think he's the second best coach in the series against Spoelstra, as we all do. So there's that. But other than that, yeah, that and their dark arts, I'm not afraid of them. I'm not afraid of them. I'm with you, actually.
The one positive that I think we should, like, or negative for Heat fans, I guess, this Terry Rozier trade has not worked. It's not like their best lineups don't include Terry Rozier. They thought they were going to get someone who was going to make life easier for Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, who's going to be able to create offense. The Heat with Rozier on the court are actually losing their minutes. Just they're barely not breaking even. But when Rozier isn't on the court, they're a team best plus 7.8 per 100 possessions. I feel like Rozier is going to play a lot of minutes in the playoffs. I don't think opponents are really afraid of Terry Rozier in the playoffs. I could end up being wrong about that, of course.
The guy's name is scary. The guy's name is scary. You're saying they're not afraid of him? What is
scary
this?
You're right. I want to turn it back to you, XJ, because I'm curious what you think about this. This seems like something that you should, or you would like. I feel like the team has been different since reinserting Nikola Jovic in the starting lineup. He seems to have brought an energy to them. He seems like the type of player you would like. He shoots. He's a connective passer. Is there any concern to you in a Knicks Heat series where the Heat would just say, okay, we're not going to beat you on the glass. We understand that. We're not big enough this year, but we have Kevin Love, we have Jovic, we have the ability to just put shooting on the floor, and you're going to play the defense that you play, and we're just going to fire away. Is there any fear there that the Heat try that against the Knicks?
I mean, are you suggesting they take Bam off the court, or are you saying Jovic and Bam as the front line?
Jovic and Bam, and then Jovic and Kevin Love, and basically everyone on their team being somewhat of a 3-point threat. I mean, you and I have talked about this before. The Knicks 3-point defense is shaky, even if the numbers don't fully bear that out. They give up open threes, something Tom Thibodeau likes to do. He wants you to stunt and recover. And when Tom Thibodeau is at his best, it's when you deploy wing shooters that he can exploit. He loves funneling the ball to non-shooting wings. We saw it last year against Cleveland with Okoro. Okoro could get an open three whenever he wanted. Tom Thibodeau was happy to live with that. If you play the Miami Heat and there's not really anybody you can funnel the ball to, or you want to funnel the ball to, I feel like that could be an issue.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. At the same time, the reason it's not a concern for me is kind of what you sort of alluded to with Terry Rozier. The Heat players that play a lot have a lot of downsides that they bring with them. And Bam is one of those guys to me. So Bam and Terry Rozier are going to play a ton of minutes. I don't expect a bunch of like Kevin Love, Nikola Jovic lineups. And if they were playing that way, I would say they might be a little more intimidating, honestly. Like if we had a bunch of like, oh, we're going to throw Haywood Highsmith out there, Nikola Jovic, and Kevin Love, then I'd be like, oh, well, that's going to be tough. How are we going to defend that? I think the Knicks could counter to me with Precious Achiuwa at the 5 and things would be fine. But at the same time, that's just not realistically going to happen for more than a few minutes, especially in a playoff environment. Bam's going to play a ton. Terry Rozier is going to play a ton. And those guys don't allow you to play in this way that kind of, we're the underdog. We're going to play the variance game. We're going to want to get up a bunch of threes and beat you that way. They're not really going to play that way. At least I don't anticipate it. I guess you can't put anything past Spo, but I see Bam playing a ton. I see Rozier playing a ton. And with those guys out there, you can't really get away with it. So it's not really a concern to me. unless somehow, Bam Adebayo becomes a genuine 36% three-point shooter and shoots like 4 a game, which I think we're a couple years away from that happening, if that happens. So not really a concern for me.
It is interesting to talk about the Miami Heat because so much of the downside of playing against them is theoretical. Like if you were to just take away the team names and put this matchup on paper side by side, you would expect the Knicks to comfortably win a series. But in my opinion, you should have expected that last season too. Even with a hurt Julius Randle, even with the Heat coming off a series win against Milwaukee where Giannis got hurt. Man, there's just something about this team that I wouldn't feel, to Shaun's point, I would feel like they're going to win, but I wouldn't feel comfortable until we, put the last piece of dirt on them and finish digging the grave.
I'm looking forward to throwing the dirt is what I'm saying. I'm looking forward to it. So we'll see how that 7-8 matchup goes. Shaun, any last thoughts on the Heat or either one of these teams that we're talking about, and kind of looking forward to that matchup 7-8, see who we end up playing in the first round, and just get excited for that series?
I think that I think that's a very great matchup for a playing game, like Sixers Heat. I think that's one of the better matchups we'll see in a playing game in quite some time. And I think the interesting aspect of it is that the winner loses. I think that whatever team it is, they have a better chance over there in Boston. In my preference, honestly, I have reasons that I would enjoy kicking the shit out of both of those teams. And so my preference really comes down to I would prefer Miami to go against Boston. Like, I don't think that the Sixers will beat Boston or even really give them much of an issue. I think that Miami, even if they don't beat Boston, will rough them up a little bit. Like, they have their number. So I would love to see that as a, my whole thing is about this collision course with Boston. So I wouldn't mind that.
The interesting thing about that is if Miami beats Boston again, I think Miami would beat Cleveland or Orlando too. Like, you're telling me Miami goes in and beats one of the best regular season teams we've seen since the peak Warriors, and then they're going to crumble against Cleveland or Orlando, and that would set us up for a rematch against Miami, just not the rematch we thought we were getting in the friggin' Eastern Conference Finals, which is ridiculous. And also, just from a history basis, the Knicks played the Heat 4 years in a row from 97 to 2000. The Knicks went up 3-1 in 97, and then all those players got suspended, and the Heat ended up winning the final 3 games of that series. And then the Knicks were the lower seed in all 3 of 98, 99, 2000, and won all 3 series, including one as a 7 seed and one as an 8 seed. So, look, I know it's a long time ago, but the Heat still, the Heat beat the Knicks in 2012 in the first round, and then they beat them in 2023 in the second round. So they've still got some selling of the score to do, in this matchup. And if that were to happen, the Heat is an 8 seed in the Eastern Conference Finals. Emotionally, I don't know how I could handle that. I think I'd have to just disappear into a hole and just ignore the world for a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm honestly, and this is the last thing I want to say about just this Knicks looking forward into the playoffs. It's amazing what I'm about to say, but I genuinely feel this way. I'm fine with literally any matchup for the Knicks. I think the Knicks are the favorite in any matchup that I can imagine up until the Eastern Conference Finals. And that's amazing that I'm able to sit here and say that. I'm not, an overly confident, optimistic person when it comes to the Knicks. I'm generally pretty pessimistic. I'm like, oh no, they're going to fuck it up, aren't they? But honestly, with this Knicks team, with Jalen Brunson at the helm, with OG Anunoby, with Isaiah Hartenstein, with the shooting that they have around those guys, with the way that Tibbs has been coaching, I just, with the depth that they have, I think this is a really, really strong Knicks team, and I just feel confident going into any series against anybody under any circumstances right now. So I think that's really the last thing I want to say about this team this season and looking forward into the playoffs. Last words from both of you.
I just want to remind Knicks fans that being favored in these series, there's still plenty of variance in a short game, in a 7-game series. Like, if the Knicks are minus 200, that's 66%. Even if they're 2-1 favorites twice, you're still not an overall favorite to make the Eastern Conference Finals. So, yes, we expect it, but just bear in mind, you got to, especially in a league like today, so dependent on 3-point shooting, look, we'll know after a series win or a series loss, was that a series the Knicks should have won? Or was it just, oh man, nothing was falling for them? We'll know. But just keep an open mind, go into it, be excited. This team is awesome. And Leon Rose has done an excellent job. I feel like the biggest takeaway from this season that Knicks fans can have, this is a sustainable recipe for success that the Knicks have built. And they're going to be good for a long time as long as Leon Rose is in charge and as long as Jalen Brunson's here. So kind of just the beginning, and let's go win some playoff series.
I'm right there with you. This is special, and last year was only the beginning, and this is still, the beginning. This is still like the rising crescendo, and we've got an opportunity. And I think that, it's very important, even as fans, like to just have like, I don't like that I saw some people like, oh, I don't want to see the Sixers or the Heat, blah, blah, blah. It's like, there should be no room for bitch in your heart. That time is over. It's playoff time. It's time to lock in. Everybody's got to be on the same page, whether you believed in what was going on or not, whether you like the trade or not, whether you like the free agency signage or not, whether you like Leon, whether you like Tibbs, whether you thought Jalen was a 1A, whatever you thought, whatever stupid shit a lot of y'all thought, whatever I might have muted you for, It's time for us all to unite. It's time for everybody to be on the same page, because at the end of the day, when the ball goes up in the playoffs, we all want to win the game. We all want to go as far as we can. We got 50 wins. It was a beautiful thing. We've got 16 to go. The job's not finished. Show up for everyone like it counts, because it does.
Yeah, and I just want to add one more thing, actually, before I turn it back over to you to send us off, because Shaun made such a good point. As much as I was just talking about, the variance in the playoffs, one thing XJ said a few weeks ago that's just sort of stuck with me. The NBA changes so fast, and you never know what player is going to go where. I mean, people knew that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were going to be great in Boston. Nobody had any idea that they were going to form this perfectly fitting start 5-man unit that was going to run rampant over a team for a season. Nobody knows who's going to get who next offseason. And the Knicks have some decisions coming up. They have a Julius Randle extension coming up. Right now, Jalen Brunson is the most underpaid player in the league, high level player in the league. That's not going to be true for long. They're going to give him a max soon, whether it's this summer or next summer. Jalen Brunson's going to be much more expensive. So, yes, understand there is volatility in the playoffs, but this shit matters, man. Like, they can't go into this with the attitude of like, oh, well, we'll get him next year when we get Julius Randle back. They have an advantage in front of them, and they have to capitalize on it.
Yeah, I think you both summarized that amazingly well, better than I ever could. This has been a super fun episode, Shaun. It's been an honor having you on, seriously. I've been a big admirer of yours from afar. I get to hear Jeff's brilliant mind every week, and pretty much on a daily basis when we're texting. But it's amazing having you on and getting to hear your insight and your perspective. I wrote down a couple of things that you said. This quote I love. A lot of people enjoy talking more than they enjoy basketball, and they disguise it as enjoying talking basketball. Just fire shit. So happy to have you on, man. Shout out all the places that people can find you. I mean, I'm sure they're listening to this. They know of you and anything like that, but definitely I would love if you could shout out anywhere that people could find you. I know you're everywhere. Just give a plug here if you want.
Yeah, man. First things first, shout out to you guys. You feel me? As I said earlier, you guys did an excellent job with this platform all season. When I saw you guys were making it before the season started, I was really excited because I've always been a big fan of Jeff. Jeff always knows exactly what he's talking about, always delivers it very well. And I could tell that you also had the same kind of basketball mind from afar. And so seeing it together, like the synergy has been great. And I feel like you guys are like an analytics representation of everything I feel. Like I feel things, I watch things, I feel these things, I have these strong feelings, but you guys like truly break it down and have the numbers and everything to support and back up the things that I feel and make me feel like a genius. Like I think that I'm a genius, but then like you guys say, I'm like, okay, I am, because they agree with me and they have the numbers to support it. So I'm clearly a genius. So I really appreciate you guys.
It is wild, Shaun, like how like on your spaces, like you'll just be like when I'm listening to your spaces, you'll just be spitting from like stuff you feel, and I'll just be like, yeah, he's right. Like, and I like oftentimes, what's the word actually that you often say that's like you're saying something to support a point? Steelman?
Steelman, yeah.
Yeah. So oftentimes I'm just steel manning your point. Like you'll say something and I'll be like, "Yep, Sean's right. Here are the numbers." Like keep going, Sean. And that's like my role in your space. I haven't been able to be in it as much this year, but yeah, I mean, your feel for the game is so good. It's clearly so good, and you also have such a passion for your team. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to reinforce what you were saying about yourself. It's definitely true.
No, thank you. But like you guys, are the reason I'm able to confirm that, because you guys are geniuses and you have like I have the feelings to support it, but like the numbers and the stats and the facts are always going to be superior to that. So shout out to you guys for being able to back up everything that I think and make me feel like I'm making sense. Sometimes I feel like I'm crazy. And then I can be found. I hate Shaun. That's I hate SHAUN. I shouldn't have to tell you how to spell either of the other letters. We have other words. We have a bigger problem if that is the case. Playback.tv/I hate Shaun. We watch the games together. It's a very great experience. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't pulled up yet this season, the playoffs there's gonna be a movie. Shout out to my guy Brill. Shout out to Breeze, Jay Nicky, everybody, Nelson, Lonray, CT. There's so many. I don't like shouting people out. I hate it because there's always so many people to shout out, and I never get everybody. So I take all that back. And shout out Morris too, but I take all that back. Also, we're going to be working with the Morning Brew crew. So shout out those guys. Shout out the Morning Brew crew. Brill and I are going to be doing a pregame show for the playoff game. So that'll be, check out Morning Brew on YouTube. Check out the Knicks Wall on YouTube. You can catch post-game prosperity, post-game. Hopefully there's not many post-game poutings in the playoffs. I hate post-game pouting. My least favorite show in the world. I hate losing. I hate complaining. And I have to get up there and talk about it. It's the worst. And Knicks on One, on Twitter. So you can find us at 1 o'clock or 6 o'clock the day after the game, talking about it in spaces. It's a lot of fun. And so just thank you guys again for having me. It's an honor to be here. And looking forward to a great playoff run.
Let's go. Follow Shaun everywhere that he just said. And if you're listening, you should subscribe to Hot Hand Theory. If you're not subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. What are you doing with your life? This has been a super fun episode. Thanks again, Shaun. This has been Hot Hand Theory.